Welcome back. In just 3/4 of an hour time, we'll know officially who's been given a New Year's honour. Already today, though, the world of rugby has been buzzing with reports that every member of the England World Cup winning squad has been awarded one. Libby Vina reports.
It was a moment that gripped the nation. The kick that secured a world title for England and now looks set to make history again. Just weeks after the rugby squad met the Queen, they're in line for a return visit to the palace to collect their New Year honours. Reports in today's Sun suggest all the team will get a medal, an OBE for Johnny Wilkinson and a knighthood expected for England coach Clive Woodward. Only 6 of the squad played in every match, but all saw action in at least one game, the captain's role recognised with a CBE.
That squad stopped life in England that day. The streets were empty, everybody was in front of a television set who could watch it. It produced a wonderful moment, one of the greatest moments in our lifetime in sporting terms, and goodness me, anybody involved in that deserves everything they get.
It's all a stark contrast to 1966, when some of the England football players waited years for recognition. Today, one said there were no hard feelings.
We as a group in '66 didn't get honoured as a 22-man squad. I think as at this moment in time, there's only 11 of us being honoured. So it's nice that they've taken that on, and well deserved too. I mean, I was as thrilled as anybody.
Honouring an entire sporting squad would be an unprecedented move, but Tony Blair knows that he's unlikely to face any criticism for his insistence that the whole team be rewarded for a sporting achievement that's likely to be talked about for years to come. Libby Vina, ITV News at Buckingham Palace.
A military hospital in Germany is at the centre of a terrorism alert tonight. Police sealed off the hospital in Hamburg. They'd received information that it could be the target of a car bomb attack by Islamic extremists. And a helicopter taking a Santa Claus to a show in central Serbia got into severe difficulties as it came into land. The pilot managed to regain some kind of control before the helicopter plunged to the ground. 4 people on board were seriously hurt, but the Santa Claus was able to walk away from the wreckage. And finally, this time tomorrow, millions of us will be getting ready to open the champagne if new sales figures are to be believed. Sales of the French fizz are even higher than they were on the eve of the millennium. Lauren Taylor has been finding out what's behind the boom in bubbles.
Well, you might not choose to open it quite like this, but chances are you will be drinking it tomorrow night. This is a record year for champagne buying. Supermarkets are reporting bumper sales, with Tesco alone selling 1.1 million bottles in the last 4 days. They believe this is partly because more people are choosing to celebrate at home to avoid the high price of going out on New Year's Eve.
So I think New Year's is highly overrated. I don't bother to go out and pay 50 quid to get in somewhere and have a rubbish time anyway. I'd rather be with friends at someone's house and have a better time.
But heavy discounting is also helping to shift bottles. Are you buying it for New Year's Eve?
That's right, yeah, I am.
And what do you think of the prices?
They're not bad actually, they're quite cheap, yeah. This is really cheap, yeah, really good.
And it's not just the cheap bubbly that's been flying off the shelves in the past few days, it's also expensive bottles like these. Demand for vintage champagne has gone up a staggering 75% compared with just before the millennium.
So while the fireworks for 2003 might not match up to those of the millennium, it looks as though we could be starting 2004 with record-breaking hangovers. Lauren Taylor, ITV News.
Well, now it's time to find out what's been happening where you're watching tonight. So let's join ITV newsrooms around the country. I'll be back in just a few minutes with a reminder of today's main headlines.
Thanks, Mary. Good evening from Central News. Tonight, destroyed by fire. More than 10 fire crews tackle the Mega Bowl blaze. Also tonight, the dangers of the date rape drug. 75 firefighters are tonight tackling a blaze which has destroyed a 10-pin bowling centre. More than 150 people had to be evacuated after emergency services were called to the Mega Bowl complex at Barnwood in Gloucester. Over now to our reporter Ken Goodwin, who's at the scene. Ken, exactly what more can you tell us?
Well, yes, the emergency services were called at about 6:10 this evening, and with me is Deputy Chief Fire Officer Terry Standing. The most important question: is everybody accounted for?
As far as we can understand, everybody's been accounted for at this stage. We believe there was some 150 people in the building at the time of the fire, All those people were evacuated. We did get the call as persons reported initially, but that person was accounted for, and we now believe we're dealing with an empty property, which you can see is causing us some difficulty.
I was going to ask you about that. It does seem as if your fire officers are having a bit of a problem in there. What's going on?
The problem is with this, it's a large single-storey building, it's insulated walling. We've dealt with the main bulk of the fire, but as you can see, there's still a lot of heat and smoke coming from that building. What we're trying to do now is actually, because it's safe to do so, is actually send firefighters in with breathing apparatus with a number of firefighting jets on all four sides of this premise to try and bring the fire under control and damp down.
We'll leave you to get on. You're obviously going to be here certainly well into the small hours of the morning and probably most of tomorrow.
OK, thanks very much, Ken. Now, in other news, tomorrow thousands of partygoers will be in pubs and clubs around our region celebrating the new year. But tonight there's a warning: watch what you drink. Drink spiking is one of Britain's fastest growing crimes. It follows the rape of a woman who it's thought may have been drugged. Gail Downey reports.
Take your eye off your glass and you could be a victim. That's a warning to partygoers this New Year's Eve. In this region, police are investigating a rape over Christmas at Toaston near Northampton, when a woman's drink was apparently spiked.
Be very careful who you're accepting drinks from. It's appropriate that you are very cautious of strangers, but not just strangers, people you don't know very well. So unless they're very good friends, don't take drinks from them.
The drug that's become known as a date rape drug is Rohypnol. It can be slipped into drinks undetected, making the victim powerless and with little memory of any attack. But despite the high-profile warnings, not all partygoers are worried.
I've never really thought about it too much. I know people who have had the drink spike, but not in Oxford, and no, it doesn't worry me really.
When we go out in big groups, so I just don't really think about it. It is dangerous, you know, when a couple of our friends have been spiked.
One company has developed a simple test for the drug which can be used by drinkers. But this invention only focuses on Rohypnol and not other dangers.
Well, let's get a sense of proportion. The reality is that people putting drugs into people's drinks is quite a rare thing compared to the number of people that go out drinking. When it happens, it can be tragic, it can be very uncomfortable for people. But the biggest issue is people drinking too much and then regretting what they've done the next day.
It is becoming more common now, though, for women to report drug-assisted attacks. So the message is to be on your guard and guard your drink.
Gail Downey with that report. Now, the family of a 20-year-old man who hasn't been seen since Christmas have made a desperate appeal for him to find him. Ryan Taylor from Hereford was last spotted after visiting a pub and a nightclub in the city centre on Christmas Eve. His family and girlfriend have today been putting up posters all over the centre of his hometown asking if anyone knows where he is.
Well, we're obviously treating this as very serious. Ryan has now been missing for a number of days and we need to trace where he is. Now, there have been some confirmed and some unconfirmed sightings in the city centre area, which would suggest that perhaps he's just, for whatever reason, decided to take time out for himself.
The brother of a customs officer who was killed while on a drugs raid says he's outraged that the gang leader responsible has been allowed to walk out of an open prison. Drugs baron Roddy McLean escaped from Ley Hill Prison in Gloucestershire after serving only 6 years of a 21-year sentence. During his arrest, whilst trying to smuggle £10 million of cannabis on a boat off the Scottish coast, 47-year-old customs officer Alistair Souter died.
This man had served, I gather, something like 6 years, or perhaps even less, of a 21-year sentence imposed by the Scottish courts, and all of a sudden he's transferred to, from what I gather, could be best described as a holiday camp. So I'm not filled with confidence that any good, certainly no good, can come from my brother's death, that's for sure, because amongst other things it ruined the last 2 years of my mother's life.
Police have been given more time to continue questioning a 16-year-old boy about a man's murder. 53-year-old Terence Rogers was found with stab wounds in Cromwell Road in Cheltenham on December the 20th. Police now have until midnight to question the teenager. Meanwhile, detectives have been handing out leaflets in the area to try to get more information. The salvage company Ronsons looks set to take over the former site of a chemical plant which exploded following a fire. The blast at CSG in Sandhurst near Gloucester released a cloud of poisonous gas. Planners are expected to give the company the go-ahead to move on to the site. Football now, and First Division Wimbledon have earned a well-earned deserved point against high flyers West Brom. The Dons fought out a 0-0 draw at the National Hockey Stadium in Milton Keynes, but they remain bottom of the table despite an encouraging performance. Well, that's it from the late team for this year. We're back at 12:20 tomorrow lunchtime. Hope you can join us then. Now it's back to Mary in the ITN newsroom for today's national headlines.
Hello again. The main stories tonight. There was a tip-off tonight that Nathan Coleman, the prime suspect in the Leeds police killing, had been spotted at York Station, but a search failed to find him. It's now believed that as many as 50,000 people have died in the Iranian earthquake. Parents who take their children on holiday in term time could be fined £100. And that's it tonight. Next on the ITV News channel, more on the emotional message from the mother of an ecstasy victim. From me and all the team, good night.
ITV National Weather, sponsored by Powergen.
Hello, good evening. So a fair bit of mist and fog across at southern parts tonight. That could well linger into tomorrow morning, although once the winds start picking up, it will disappear. And you'll notice here another batch of rain working in from the west, snow on the front of that too. That is going to continue working east through the day with that one or two quite heavy wintry flurries for northern parts. Although the further east it goes, it will eventually turn back into rain, some of which could be quite heavy. And you can see as well, very windy. As far as New Year's Day goes, we've still got a fair bit of cloud the further east you are with that. Again, some rain for a while. You can see remaining windy right across the country. Temperatures really not too much at all, still very chilly indeed, a high of around 7 Celsius. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.
Positive energy from Powergen.